You ever catch yourself saying, I wish this was easier? Maybe life's been hitting you hard. Business isn't growing. Relationships are falling apart. Your health is slipping. Or you just feel stuck. I get it. We've all been there. But let me tell you something that will change your life. If you let it sink in, don't wish it was easier, get better. Because the moment you stop hoping the storm passes and start learning how to sail through it, that's the moment you take your power back. Life isn't supposed to hand you success. It's supposed to demand your transformation. And every challenge, every obstacle, every failure is your invitation to rise. Most people walk through life with a silent prayer. Please let this get easier. They hope the boss becomes kinder, the bills shrink, the body heals without effort, and the world suddenly bends to their will. But what if I told you that this mindset is exactly what's keeping them stuck? You see, adversity isn't something to avoid. It's something to lean into, because every single breakthrough in your life, every ounce of growth, strength, resilience, wisdom, it all came from moments of struggle. It didn't come from ease. It came from friction. It came from pain. It came from pressure. That's where the real transformation happens. We live in a world that sells comfort like it's the highest virtue. Comfort, food, comfortable careers, comfort zones. But what they don't tell you is that comfort doesn't create greatness. It creates stagnation. If you're not being challenged, you're not being changed. And if you're not being changed, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying inside, spiritually, emotionally, and sometimes even physically. That's the brutal truth most people don't want to hear, but it's the truth that will set you free if you're willing to face it head on. Think about a seed. That seed has everything inside of it to become a mighty tree, but it will never become that tree until it's buried in dirt, pushed into darkness, drenched in rain, and beaten by wind. That process isn't easy. It's painful. It's messy, but it's necessary, because in that storm, something inside that seed awakens. The pressure doesn't destroy it. It activates it, and you're no different. That adversity you're praying away might be the very thing trying to wake up the power that's been asleep inside you. The pain you're avoiding might be the key to the version of you that you've always dreamed of becoming. When people say, this is too much, I can't take it, what they're really saying is, I don't believe I can handle who I need to become to rise above this. But here's the truth, you can handle it. You were built for this. You were born with everything you need to overcome. But the tools only reveal themselves when you step into the fire. You don't become courageous by reading about bravery. You become courageous by being scared and doing it anyway. You don't become strong by avoiding resistance. You become strong by pushing through the weight again and again until it no longer breaks you. It builds you. You don't need life to be easier. You need to get better at navigating what life throws at you. And getting better doesn't mean being perfect. It means being committed. It means waking up every day and deciding that you're going to grow no matter what. That you're going to use the storm instead of running from it. That you're going to stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Adversity is a gift. It doesn't feel like it when you're in the middle of it. It feels like hell. It feels unfair. It feels overwhelming. But hindsight always reveals the truth that pressure you hated forged a stronger, wiser, more powerful version of you. The job you lost led you to find your true calling. The relationship that ended taught you how to value yourself. The failure that crushed your ego gave birth to humility and hunger. The pain, the setbacks, the heartbreaks, they were all preparing you for something bigger. The people who thrive in life aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who refused to be defined by hardship. They're the ones who looked adversity in the face and said, you're not here to destroy me. You're here to develop me. And that mindset doesn't just change how you deal with challenges. It changes who you become. It unlocks a version of you that isn't shaken by problems, but shaped by them. It makes you unstoppable, not because life stops testing you, but because you stop being afraid of the test. So the next time you find yourself hoping things get easier, catch yourself. That's a moment of decision. Instead of wishing for ease, commit to growth. Instead of asking for the storm to pass, become the kind of person who dances in the rain. Because it's not about what happens to you. It's about what you do with it. And the ones who embrace adversity, who see it as a doorway instead of a dead end, they're the ones who rise. Always. Most people walk around feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and burned out. They look at their lives and say, it's just too much. I can't handle this. And they believe that if the pressure would just let up, if the workload would just lighten, if people would just cooperate, they'd finally be okay. But what if that feeling of overwhelm isn't because there's too much going on? What if it's because you're underprepared? What if the real issue isn't the size of the problem, but the size of your skill set, your strategy, or your mindset? That might sound harsh, but let me tell you something. Once you understand this, you take your power back. See, when you believe you're overwhelmed because the world is too demanding, you become a victim. You become powerless. But when you realize that you're overwhelmed because there's a gap between who you are and who you need to become, now you've got something to work with. Now you're in control because you can train, you can learn, you can grow. You can develop the emotional muscle, the mental strength, and the habits necessary to handle whatever life throws your way. Think of a person walking into a gym for the first time. If you put 300 pounds on the bar and ask them to lift it, they'll be crushed. Not because the weight is unfair, but because they haven't built the strength yet. The weight isn't too much. It's just too much for now. That's how life works. The pressure you feel, the chaos that surrounds you, the deadlines, the responsibilities, they're the weight. And if they feel like too much, that's a signal, not a sentence. It's a message telling you it's time to grow stronger, sharper, better. It's not a sign to quit. It's a call to train. What you've got to understand is that everything overwhelming you right now is a chance to build something in yourself that wasn't there before. If your finances stress you out, maybe it's time to develop better discipline, learn to budget, or create new income streams. If your relationships feel strained, maybe it's time to sharpen your communication, deepen your empathy, or raise your standards. If your work feels like too much, maybe you need to upgrade your time management, your delegation, or your focus. It's not that life is out of control. It's that your preparation hasn't caught up to your potential yet. People often say they want a better life. They want more success, more love, more freedom, more fulfillment. But here's the truth, the version of you that wants it isn't the version of you that can handle it yet. That's why growth is non-negotiable. That's why the pain you're feeling is necessary, because you're being invited to become someone who's no longer overwhelmed by the things that used to break you. And if you accept that invitation, everything changes. Imagine a pilot flying a small plane who suddenly gets assigned a jumbo jet. It's a massive upgrade, right? But if they haven't trained for that kind of aircraft, it'll feel terrifying. It's not that the opportunity is bad. It's that they're unprepared. Same goes for life. That opportunity you've been praying for, that next level you keep visualizing, it won't feel exciting if you're not equipped for it. It'll feel like chaos. That's why preparation matters more than wishing. Don't pray for the load to be lighter. Train to carry more. And here's the best part. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't fixed. You're not stuck. You're not doomed. You're not limited by your past. You're limited only by the training you refuse to do. When you commit to getting better every single day, when you take responsibility for your growth, when you look at every area of overwhelm as an opportunity to level up, you become unshakable. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop drowning and start swimming. You stop surviving and start thriving. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, pause and ask yourself, what am I not prepared for yet? Where do I need to grow? What skill, what mindset? What system do I need to develop to handle this? And instead of running from the pressure, use it. Let it push you to become more. Let it drive you into mastery. Because you're not a victim of circumstances. You're a creator of outcomes. And when you decide to outgrow your problems instead of avoid them, nothing can stop you. You were never meant to stay the same. You were built to evolve. So stop wishing for less responsibility and start building more capacity. Don't hope the mountain shrinks, start climbing. Because once you realize you're not overwhelmed, you're underprepared, you unlock the truth that will move you forward forever. Growth is the antidote to overwhelm. And getting better is always within your control. Every person who's ever achieved something extraordinary, something that changed their life or the lives of others, has one thing in common. They committed to a mindset of relentless growth. Not occasional improvement, not dabbling in self-help when things got tough, but a deep, unwavering, almost obsessive belief that no matter where they started, they could get better. They weren't born with superior gifts. They weren't handed golden opportunities on a silver platter. What set them apart was their decision to grow again and again, even when it was hard, even when it was painful, even when it seemed like nothing was working. See, most people live with a fixed idea of who they are. They say things like, I'm just not good at business, or I've never been confident, or I'm not a morning person. They create these identities and live inside them as if they were permanent. But those identities are nothing more than stories created by repetition, by fear, by past failures. And the truth is, you're not fixed. You're not stuck. You're not defined by who you were yesterday. You're defined by who you decide to become today. The only thing standing between you and the life you want is the belief that you can't grow into it. Growth isn't some feel-good theory. It's a necessity if you want to live a powerful life. When you commit to becoming better, when you adopt the mindset that every skill can be learned, every weakness can be improved, and every limitation can be shattered, you change the game. Life stops happening to you and starts happening through you. You start realizing that obstacles aren't dead ends. They're detours meant to strengthen you. That failures aren't signs of incompetence. They're feedback systems designed to shape your next move. The problem is most people stop growing when it gets uncomfortable. They set goals, They get excited, and the moment it requires sacrifice or discipline or confrontation with their own excuses, they retreat. They say things like, maybe I'm not cut out for this, or maybe it's not the right time. But growth doesn't care about your comfort. Growth requires discomfort. It demands effort. It exposes you. And that's a good thing, because the version of you that gets everything you want isn't born out of ease. It's born out of challenge. It's forged in discomfort. The fire you're trying to avoid is the same fire that will refine you if you step into it. You have to understand that every time you choose growth over comfort, you take a step toward the life you're meant to live, you build self-trust, you expand your capacity, you unlock parts of yourself that you didn't even know were there. And the more you grow, the more you realize how much potential is still untapped. It becomes a cycle, a powerful upward spiral. One small improvement leads to another, and before you know it, you're operating on a completely different level. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger, smarter, more focused, more resilient. But it all starts with the mindset. You have to believe that you can grow, that your current reality is not your final destination, that your brain, your habits, your emotions, your results, they're all moldable. Science has proven this. Your brain literally rewires itself based on repetition and effort. You're not stuck. You're adaptable. And if you feed your mind with powerful beliefs and back it up with daily action, you can change your entire life. Stop waiting for someone to hand you permission. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop saying, I'll start once I feel ready. You'll never feel ready. Growth happens before you're ready. It happens when you decide to act despite the fear. When you show up on the days you want to quit. When you do what others won't so you can live how others can't. That's the mindset that creates transformation. You weren't put here to coast through life. You were put here to evolve, to stretch, to become more. And every time you choose growth over stagnation, you move closer to the person you were born to be. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is progress. And if you keep showing up, keep learning, keep pushing, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's hard, there's no limit to how far you can go. So don't wait for things to get easier. Don't wait for motivation to show up. Start growing right now, because the life you want isn't waiting for someone easier. It's waiting for someone better. And that someone is you. There comes a point in your life when you have to realize that trying to control everything around you is not only exhausting, it's impossible. People spend so much time and energy trying to fix the world outside them. They try to change their boss, their partner, their family, the economy, the government, their past, and even the weather. But the truth is, none of that is where your power lies. Real control doesn't come from manipulating external circumstances. Real control comes from mastering yourself. From building a level of internal strength so unshakable that no matter what chaos is happening around you, you remain centered, focused, and in command of your response. You can't control what life throws at you, but you can control what you do with it. That's where your power begins. People who are constantly frustrated, constantly anxious, constantly reactive, what they're really lacking isn't calm conditions. They're lacking emotional fitness. Just like physical fitness, emotional fitness is built through discipline, repetition, and challenge. It's the ability to stay grounded when everything feels like it's falling apart. It's the ability to choose your state instead of being a slave to it. That's a skill. And it's one of the most powerful skills you can develop, because when you master your inner world, the outer world can't break you. We all know people who crumble under pressure and others who thrive in the same situation. It's not because one has better circumstances. It's because one has trained their mind and emotions while the other hasn't. One person reacts to a setback with panic, while the other responds with strategy. One sees rejection as failure, the other sees it as feedback. That difference isn't luck, it's mastery. And mastery starts with the decision to stop letting your circumstances dictate your experience. When you start taking responsibility for your state, everything changes. You stop waiting for life to be easy. You stop waiting for people to act the way you want them to. You stop waiting for motivation, for permission, for validation. Instead, you become the one who creates energy, focus, drive, and clarity on demand. That's personal power. And it doesn't come from a book or a motivational video. It comes from practice. From making the decision every day to own your reactions, own your thoughts, own your emotions. The world will never stop testing you. That's not negativity, that's reality. People will let you down, markets will crash, plans will fall apart. And if your peace, your confidence, your success are all tied to everything going your way, you'll always be at the mercy of forces you can't control. But if you build yourself, if you strengthen your ability to respond with clarity, with courage, with calm, you become untouchable. Not because life stops throwing punches, but because you've trained yourself to absorb them and keep moving forward. Mastery of self is about learning to shift your focus. Most people focus on what's missing, what's wrong, what they can't change. That focus creates stress, anger, hopelessness. But when you train your mind to focus on what you can control, your effort, your attitude, your decisions, you reclaim your life. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about refusing to let problems steal your power. You look them in the eye and say, I decide how I feel. I decide what this means. I decide what I do next. It's easy to blame. It's easy to point fingers. It's easy to say, I'd be happy if they treated me better, or I'd be successful if I got more support. But none of that makes you stronger. Taking full ownership of your internal world, that's what builds strength. That's what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. It's not about being perfect. It's about being powerful. Not power over others, but power over yourself. Your doubts, your fears, your impulses. The greatest freedom in life comes when you realize that nothing and no one outside you controls your destiny. Your reaction is your responsibility. Your results are your responsibility. Your growth is your responsibility. And the moment you stop trying to manage the world and start mastering yourself, you stop living as a prisoner to your environment. You start living as a creator. And from that place, there's no limit to what you can do because you're no longer waiting for the world to give you peace. You've created it within. Most people wait. They wait for the perfect timing. They wait until they feel ready. They wait until they have more money, more confidence, more clarity. They keep waiting, thinking that someday everything will align, and then they'll go after what they truly want. But that day never comes, because the truth is, action isn't the result of clarity. It's the cause of it. Progress doesn't come from thinking, planning, or wishing. It comes from doing. And if you want to live a powerful life, you have to make progress non-negotiable. Nothing changes until you move. Nothing happens until you take that first uncomfortable, uncertain, messy step. That's where all growth begins, not with perfection, not with certainty, but with movement. And the irony is, once you start, once you commit, once you put one foot in front of the other, even when you're not sure where it's leading, you start to gain momentum. You start to feel more capable. You begin to uncover answers you couldn't find while you were sitting still. Progress builds confidence. Progress creates clarity. Progress fuels more progress. The challenge is that we're conditioned to believe we have to have it all figured out before we begin. We're told to map it all out, prepare for every possible outcome, and avoid mistakes at all costs. But that mindset kills dreams, because life doesn't reward perfection. It rewards action. It rewards persistence. It rewards the person who's willing to show up, fall down, get up, and try again. You don't get better by waiting. You get better by doing. You learn by trying. You grow by stretching. And the only way to stretch is to get uncomfortable. You've got to stop making progress optional. You've got to stop treating growth like it's a luxury or something you'll get around to when things calm down. Life doesn't calm down. If anything, it gets more demanding. So the question isn't, do I have time to grow? It's can I afford not to? Because the longer you stay still, the more stuck you feel. And the more stuck you feel, the harder it becomes to believe that progress is even possible. That's the trap. The mind convinces you that because you're not moving, you can't move. But that's a lie. One step, just one small action can shatter that illusion and remind you who you really are. When you decide that progress is non-negotiable, you stop entertaining excuses. You stop negotiating with your limitations. You stop saying, maybe tomorrow, and start saying, what can I do today? Even if it's small, even if it's uncomfortable, especially if it's uncomfortable, because discomfort is the path to transformation. The actions you avoid are the very actions that will free you. The conversations you're scared to have, the risks you don't want to take, the changes you keep postponing, those are the doors to your next level. The key is consistency. Not massive, dramatic action once in a while. Not waiting for a burst of motivation. It's about daily, committed, intentional movement. Tiny steps, taken over time, compound into massive results. You won't always feel like it. That's okay. Do it anyway. You won't always feel ready. That's okay. Start anyway. Because motivation is a byproduct of momentum. The more you move, the more energy you create. And before long, the discipline you struggle with becomes a habit. The goals that once felt impossible start to feel inevitable. Progress is what keeps your spirit alive. It's what gives your life direction, purpose, and power. You could have everything, wealth, relationships, recognition, but without growth, you'll feel empty. Because deep down, we're not meant to stay the same. We're built to evolve, to stretch, to expand. That hunger inside you, that desire for more, it's not greed. It's your soul telling you that you were made for more than standing still. So don't make it about waiting. Don't make it about wishing. Make it about doing, about deciding, about stepping forward when it would be easier to retreat. Make progress your standard, not your goal. Make growth your identity, not your intention. And watch what happens when you stop waiting for the right conditions and start creating them. Your life will begin to change, not someday, but now. Because the difference between the life you have and the life you want is not luck. It's movement. It's action. It's progress. And that's always in your control.